Hey gang, Ken Hackathorn, my buddy Paul Howe, another episode of The Gun Guys. Listen, we're going to pick up from where the last one was with more of the discussion, some great insight from Paul Howe. We hope you enjoy this one. We'll try to make it as direct and as valuable as we can for you as the viewer. Follow along here, and I think you're going to find some interesting information. Another one, which is a real hot potato, and to some degree, you and I have different feelings on this one, but I'm curious to hear yours, and I know you've thought this out, but this talk about the gun at the junk carry position. And before you tell me, I'm going to tell you folks, remember, if you carry your gun, point at your junk. Real popular technique right now. Remember, if you do that, every pistol that you put in that carry position is a potential decocker. What's your thoughts?
I get that. Holsters have evolved, carry positions have evolved. You said it's faster. I actually am faster from a 3 o'clock position. What I can do there, the advantages it gives me is driving a vehicle. I can get it out and probably put it back pretty safe. But the problem, what I see is on the flat range and how instructors teach it. You hit it yesterday. People with certain physiques shouldn't be doing appendix. They can't see it. If you miss your holster one time, you look at it. That is our school philosophy, because you're not doing this by braille. You're not, you cannot fish for your holster. If you cannot see your holster, you put it back on the 4 o'clock, it's a no-go. We don't let people do that. No. Now, what we require is we train them up properly. We watch them. We're slow to get to where we actually, we're Nazis on trigger fingers. And so what happens here, you got a clean garment. You look at it, you put it in there. And then the same thing on your draw strokes. When we watch trigger fingers, finger doesn't go in trigger to where? It comes up to high ready. So what you're doing is you're drawing to high ready, and that's when your finger can only go in trigger. We get in vehicles. Another rule along the same lines, finger cannot go in trigger until you pass the infrastructure of the vehicle. I have vehicles that are shot on the pillars, and I go, yeah. And you're going, all right, so you missed some stuff. We see this because, we get on passenger on a vehicle, right side carry, 3 o'clock, they get out and they sweep their femoral artery all the time. So what we do to negate that is you stand first and draw your weapon, so you're not going across your femoral. If we're here on driver, I can go straight up, do an L shape. I can go appendix straight up. So we have teachers, and they have to go almost a deep concealment. They're wearing a gun, guardians, 8-10 hours a day. They're around little kids and this and that. So we've trained them, and I think through our training methodology, and we talked about what the Sherpa holsters and all that. I had soldiers that have to go use that overseas. Do I say no? No, I'm going to train you. And what I have to do is go, here's how you do this, and I have to. We're tired at the end of the day as a real instructor, a professional instructor, because he is watching every student all the time in micromechanics. And you spot those things, and you got to get in there and fix it. And you've got to make sure they're doing the right things. And if an instructor, and that goes span of control, a group of new shooters versus seasoned, Ellie has already been through an academy. Yes, and in service, so they're pretty safe, but they got little boogers we got to fix up. So what happens is, though, on a brand new shooter, you've got to go slower and take them, and then you've got to have the extra instructors. You know the deal. We're out there, and we've got a big line. It makes it safer if we don't have those junk guns. The Sherpa holsters is safer, but I have to look at it and go, if he's going to combat or they're going to carry that all day, here's
to learn to use it.
Yes. Yeah. And so here's the deal. They don't get to shoot until they can do it dry fire right. If they can't do it dry fire, I'm not giving them bullets. You're not here, you have to earn the right. And that's what a lot of students don't understand. But if you're going to carry a gun in school, we're going to train you right. And we're going to get you up point A to point B, and you have to be precise with that weapon.
Paul, we chatted about this yesterday, and we got pretty spirited about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's cool, because remember, I tell people that in the firearms training world, of the guys that are professionals, we're talking about guys who make their living at it. If we took all the guys we know in this industry, and we couldn't even get them in this room, we'd need probably a coliseum to get them all in. There's so many firearms trainers today. But the point, if you took a room full of guys, our peers, and said, sat down, we would probably discover that 85% of the material that we teach is pretty much the same. There's 15% that we vary on. And for example, you may have a different outlook or approach or training methodology than I do. It doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yes.
It's just that based upon your mission, your clientele, or your experience, you have come up with a different conclusion than I have. Now, when we chatted about the junk carry, and you asked me, did you do it in training? And so I said, if you had a pistol with a manual safety, let's say like a 1911 or that kind of design, or you had a double action auto, so like a Beretta or Smith or whatever it was, where you could decock the gun,
yes,
and then reholster, put your thumb on the back of the hammer, and you could reholster it, I would let you carry appendix or gun of junk. If you were carrying a striker fire gun that didn't have a safety, you say, oh yeah, but it's got a button on the trigger, it's a safety. No, that's a drop safety, that's not a real safety. But no, I'd say move your gun around to the side. And people would get angry with that. People say, oh, this is the way I carry it. And I go, you know what, I agree, it's cool. I got no heartburn with it. When this class is over, you can put it back where you want when you leave the range.
Yes.
And it's cool, I don't have a problem. But in my class, I'm not gonna let you do it. And for one reason, I had to, like all of us, we have to have a lot of liability insurance. The minimum generally is $1 million in liability insurance. So let's say I have a guy in my class, and I got to word this carefully, but I'm going to say it anyway. You get a line of guys in a class, and if you look down that line, you're going to see that probably a third to half of those guys have not seen their in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so you say, well, the safe way, and you're grinning, but it's the truth. It's the way it works. You know, I'm about reality teaching, not entertainment teaching.
That's correct.
And here's what I say is, the guy said, well, the safe way to reholster the gun is to lean back and look your way in. These guys, if they lean back far enough where they can see it going in, they're going to fall on their butt.
Oh, yes.
Because it's just the way their anatomy is wired. So I looked at that and said, look, and the way they do that to get the gun back in a holster, and they'll take it and they do this and point it themselves
at their core,
to get it started and then down into the holster. Well, rule number 2 of firearm safety is never point a weapon at anything you don't wish to destroy.
Yes.
So we take Billy Bob, and he shoots his balls off in the class.
Yeah.
Doing that. And you say, well, his finger's out of the trigger guard. Yeah, but the shirt tail.
Yes.
After in a class, we see shirt tails get pulled out, and it gets inside that trigger guard as you reholster, and there's a muffled sound followed by a searing, burning sensation.
Yeah.
And when it's all said and done, I get sued.
Yes.
I've got $1 million worth of liability insurance. So we go into court, and the plaintiff's attorney says, Mr. Hackathorn, in your training class, did Billy Bob manage to get severely injured and shoot his testicles off? Yes, he did. Mr. Hackathorn, do you know the second rule of firearm safety? And I'm going to have to say, yes, sir, I do. He says, what is that rule? Never point a weapon at anything you don't wish to see destroyed. And you say, then why did you allow my client to violate that rule? At that point, I'm done. Insurance company's going to pay the claim. That's why we have it. But guess what?
They're canceling your insurance.
They're canceling it. Now I'm out of business.
Yeah.
That was my approach to why I didn't like it, or I didn't permit it. You have a unique ability because you put them through a program where you're allowed to have people practice it dry and learn it and get very proficient at it. When you're doing a typical 2 or 3 day class, you don't have that time because you've got a whole bunch of people. That guy with the gun over here, he doesn't need to learn that technique. He doesn't have to learn to look it in the holster. Bottom line is, I just said no. When you leave the class, put it back where you want it. I don't care.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't care if you shoot your balls off.
Yes.
But I just don't want you to do it in my class.
No.
And people say, well, that doesn't happen. Oh, it happens regularly. And people say, well, no, it doesn't. No, it happens. But guess what? The guy that does that is not going to get on Facebook and say, hey, guess what happened today? I shot my balls off. No, they keep that pretty low key. And people say to me, well, yeah, but you can do it putting it in the holster side. Yeah, I've seen it numerous times. Yeah. Yes, you do. But, you know, when you shoot yourself in the butt or in the leg or in the foot, you're generally pretty recoverable. The effects of shooting yourself in your family jewels is not pleasant. And by the way, if it happens to be an inch or two the other direction, you hit the femoral artery,
Yep.
you're going to die right there on the range. You're not going to make it to the emergency room. So that's been my difference. And it's a different approach, but that's kind of the way I address that issue. Now people say, well, you're old and you're a boomer. Yes, I am a boomer. 1946, first year boomer. But the bottom line is, when I was a youngster, believe it or not, I carried a Colt Lightweight Commander Appendix. And then after a while, I discovered, it's not really very comfortable. Yes. And as you get older, comfort becomes a little bit more important. And I've migrated around to the point where when I carried a gun, a duty gun or whatever, I carried it right here at 3 o'clock. Guess what? I want to always program myself, my hand goes to the same place every time. And when we did that half cup drill, you commented on that, my draw stroke was like, automatic, because I've been doing it that way for probably half a century.
Yeah.
So, all right, another one that I think is a hot topic today. You got anything else?
Oh yeah, but you tell me when you want to address it, because it's how do you handle those problem students? Because you get the one person, the problem student is, I've been around guns all my life. Yes, you've ingrained and patterned in bad habits, unsafe habits. Do you send them home or do you keep their money? And I, honestly, the money, I'm like you. You can either adapt and you slow down and you learn our system and you're safe, or you go home. You don't endanger my insurance, you don't endanger other students. Yeah. And so that's where an instructor has to go, no, and that's why I'm in the same boat. I've sent students and I have to write a statement on it. My instructors write statements, because if they come back and they badmouth me on the internet, no, I'm gonna nuke you. I'm gonna tell everybody what we saw, how many times you were told, the issues, and that you could not accept instruction and perform simple, safe tasks, because we cannot have you endanger other students, because you know the deal, students will watch that one student, say, A, are they getting corrected, or they're worried about a gun getting pointed at them. And it's like, they don't need to do that in a training class.
I had a discussion with a guy the other day, and I was talking about when you're doing a training class, teaching, assault in the military, assault in law enforcement, you get one or two jokers in the class.
Yeah.
And if you don't deal with them real quick,
yes,
they will contaminate the rest of the class.
That's
and
correct.
The quality of the training will go downhill. So yeah, you have to address that. One of the other hot topics now is the ability to do a 1 second draw.
Yes.
You have instructors out there that, well, I'm going to teach you, you're going to pay me to come and take a couple of days class, and when you're done, you'll be able to make a 1 second draw. That's a big thing. And people say, oh yeah, I want to be able to do that. Well, first of all, I regard that as a parlor trick. If I take you to the range or anybody else for 2 days and we constantly practice one draw stroke,
yeah,
and this, by the way, is the fastest one from concealment. In my opinion, the ability to be able to go this, bam, on target.
Yeah.
Now, and you can get people to where they, oh man, you just shot a 91. Oh man, oh man.
Yeah.
The problem is you leave the range and 3 days later, you got to make that draw, that presentation to save your life. It ain't going to be a .91. It's just a parlor trick. And I tell people, it's speed of draw is important.
Yes.
In the real world, accuracy always outweighs speed. Does that mean that speed isn't important? No, it is important, but it's secondary to the hit. And the hit has to be with a handgun delivered very precisely, or it's not going to be effective. So I think guys get ate up with, again, we're in a current trend in America today where shooting doing everything fast with guns is important. Everybody wants to be John Wick. I keep saying that.
Yeah.
By the way, have you seen the new John Wick 4 movie?
No.
I haven't either. Everybody tells me it's the best one. Yeah, it's a good movie. Great entertainment, but that's not the real world.
You hit the button. It's entertainment. We're in an entertainment society, and that's what a lot of instructors. You want me to actually address this one-shot stuff? I mean, it's just, we have a high ready, we push out, we have a draw that this you can attain in a realistic amount of time. So we work on that. We want avoidance first. We want to avoid a situation. But if you're a guardian or school teacher, this and that, and you get shots fired, you have option A. You can approach concealed carry. You can approach hand on the pistol. You can approach high ready position, or you can approach SUL. And that's simply it. The stimulus is going to dictate how you go forward. What is this one-shot draw stuff? I don't watch that stuff.
Well, the part is that...
Is it like 3 yards or something?
Yeah, well, yeah. And generally, if you look at the accuracy standards, pretty relaxed. In other words, you hit the silhouette, they're happy.
Yes.
At say 3 yards, whatever.
So are you doing a point shoot, or you seeing your front
They're
sight?
basically bringing the gun pretty much to eye level and shooting.
Yeah,
Now,
so you're building a muscle memory. Do you want them to use your front sight every time? I do.
Yeah.
So all my drills
I
are
want to
built-
see it.
Yes.
I want to see it somewhere in
have
that
to see
alignment
it.
process.
If you do not see your front sight, you don't press the trigger. And I lose a drill. I don't care. I got to see that front sight.
Yeah, and that people say to me, "What?" That's why a sight that shows up. I like a gold bead.
Yes.
Some people like fiber optic. The newer design sights with are fluorescent or a lime green circle with a tritium dot in it. It's probably in many ways the best all around system. Yeah. But bottom, I want to be able to see it. I may not be focused on it. I'll probably be focused on the threat, but I want to, in that alignment process, that what you were talking about yesterday is your natural alignment. We spend a lot of time learning, so when that gun comes out, it comes right to eye level. Basically, we can look right over the gun and make that shot if we have to.
Yes.
But I want that front sight to be the indicator of whether that gun is indexed properly. I tell people, guys tell me, well, you don't point shoot. Everybody I know point shoots. I'll tell you, I'm gonna explain that. You draw the gun out, and when you get it there and you look at the sights, do you have to make a sight correction? No, you point the gun to the target. All you do is at the last millisecond is you confirm the alignment of the sight, particularly the front sight, as far as where you want the bullet to go. But how many times have you ever drawn the gun, Paul, once you've learned got some proficiency, where you had to bring it out, I got to move the sight. Yeah. The point system gets you on target. The sight simply confirms it's where it needs to be as you conduct the press. But, okay, 2 more points I want to hit. You're talking about ready gun positions.
Yes, sir.
There's a number of different ones. High gun, what we call low gun, low ready, position soul. There's a number of different ones. And we were on the range the other day. I noticed you were working from high ready. And I would say, based upon, shall we say, your life experience and the job you had, in the CQB scenario particularly, number 1 man, AKA scout, is always gun up ready to deal with the threat. Because let's face it, the guys behind you can't see that. You're the guy. This is a great ready gun position. Now, and I used to teach a lot. And if I'm teaching a military or a law enforcement SWAT type program, we work from high ready, ready gun. Now, if you transfer that over to the private sector, okay, now we've different mission,
yes,
different rules of engagement. And here's what I tell people: if you see a guy out on the street or you confront somebody and they've got their gun like this, what is the natural instinct? What's your natural perception of a person holding a gun like that?
Yes.
They're getting ready to shoot.
Yes.
They're going to shoot. Or if it's facing you, he's getting ready to shoot me.
The El Paso shooter, active shooter, earmuffs, AK coming across a Walmart parking lot. What should be pinging in your mind?
Let's get a point of cover real quick.
Yes.
And let's get ready to drop this dude.
Yeah. Do you give him verbiage or no? With all the case histories right now, it's a hostage rescue. You say, hey, I bet I can hit that earmuff, and you and you put a round through that earmuff because it's non-ballistic, and you service it, and then you reconceal because you know what's coming next.
Yes, sir.
You might have CHL holders coming in. You might have law enforcement. What we do is we blend back in. As soon as we solve the problem, we blend back in. We have to link up with police. And I'm going to find, if I see, hate to say it, Barney Fife coming in and he's shaking, then I don't talk to him. I'm going to wait. Hey, I'm looking for a sergeant, somebody calm and composed. Hey, sir, can I talk to you? I solved that problem. I'm a concealed weapon holder. I'm a good guy. Tell me what you want me to do. If you want my weapon, it's either appendix or 3 o'clock. You take it off me, and I'll put my hands on top of my head. But you have to survive that next encounter.
Yeah.
But what this is you have the stimulus, the probable cause, the justification. If you don't, then guess what? You approach it, but you break those angles, concealed carry, ready for a fight.
Yep.
Well.
And here's what I tell people along that line. Yeah. If you've got your gun out or in your hand and the cops arrive, you're in real trouble, and I'll tell you why. They're going to start yelling instructions. Trust me, I've been there and seen this. One guy's going to say, drop the gun. Another guy's going to be screaming, put your hands up.
Yeah, 5 different commands.
And no matter what you do, it's going to be wrong.
Yes.
And I always tell them, remember, when the cops start shooting, they all start shooting.
Yes.
And one of them might get lucky.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I have
and you're going to get shot. So You're right. As soon as you realize that it's a safe environment, get your gun put away, or you hear the sirens, or you see the strobes, or you even, well, here come the cops, put the gun away, or lay it on the ground, put your hands up, because there's a real good chance you're going to get shot if you don't.
What I do is we tell the teachers and everybody else, find some medical work. If a law enforcement officer comes in and you're doing medical on somebody, they're not going to look at you twice. They're going, man, I don't have to get my hands dirty because this person's doing it. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we find work. We get our security, and then we start medical. And then once they catch their breath, the adrenaline kind of wears off a little bit, because I look at them, I scan people and I go right down to trigger fingers. Where is it? And I go, is their brain connected, or do they have bad habits? Because you know the deal with LA. We have accidental shootings all the time, self-inflicted wound shootings. We have agencies that have to wear the body armor on a range because they have accidents, when they're shooting.
Oh, hallelujah.
Yeah, so I get it. We're preparing these guardians, these teachers to respond. Here's the deal. If you don't know what it is and you can't articulate what it is, then, you go in concealed and you break the angles using the proper techniques. And I tell people, when you go to Walmart, I don't go to Walmart because it's just one of those things, but you park at the end of the aisle. You don't park up close. And what you do is you scan people and learn to scan people. You will need to be able to step within one step, use somebody else's car's cover, not your own, because then you can't drive it off the X. But what you do is you have to be able to step offline, because they either A, they have to drop on you, or B, you got to drop on them. And I keep it really simple for decision-making process.
Yeah. And I tell people, when you enter a business, for example, I have a habit of, I do it. When I go in, the first thing I do is kind of look around.
Yes.
Same thing. I'm reading that
checking demeanor.
Yeah, I'm reading that terrain. And I look at, okay, does this kind of look like an okay crowd? Is there somebody that doesn't fit in, or somebody who's making eye contact? I tell people, somebody's making eye contact with you, that should be a kind of a click that what's going on. Now, I got one other thing I want to go to, and this is a point. My buddy Dave Spalding, who's now retired from the training business, one of their great trainers, had a process that he explained. It's called mastering a technique and then anchoring it. And what most people don't realize, they take a class from you, or somebody like me, or many of the guys out there today. I can teach you to kind of master a technique. Let's say the draw stroke and firing a shot. I can talk you through trigger press, sights and press. I can get you in a couple of days to master a technique. Mm-hmm. The problem is, unless you go out and practice on your own, you don't anchor that. So it becomes literally a reflexive or subconscious response. You take training to learn how to master the skill, but you have to practice it to anchor it, so that when it happens, you don't have to think about it. I'm not going to be there and tell you sights and press. You just got to be anchored.
You have to invest, and you have to believe in it. If you don't invest and you don't believe in it, you're not going to do it. We call them seminar junkies. People go, all these different trainers, and nothing sticks.
Right.
I go, hey, what'd you learn? Did you bring any drills from that class? Oh, no, but it was great. We burned 2,000 rounds in 2 days. I go, okay, so you made brass, and you didn't bring anything back from that. And so what are you going to pull and put into your personal shooting plan that will get you point A to point B in life? And that's what you need. And so you have to distill it, because you and I are funnels, and we get all this information. We come in and go, really, all this little bit works. This is really what's important. And you hit it on the head, seeing your front sight. I'm a little simpler. I'm a nug. Infantry guy. You talked about that. We don't get out much.
Yeah, lug nut. You are. I admit. No, you're a smart lug nut, and you figure this stuff out.
Well, I go person bad. I go, can I do anything about that person other than see my front sight on them once I decide to service them? I have to go through all my mechanics. I don't care what they do in that 0.8 of a second, because I'm not worried about processing that. I'm going front sight there, good trigger press. And I keep pressing that trigger until they fall out of my front sight. If I don't have a human in that front sight, I don't pull the trigger. So all the same stuff, just how your brain works. And people want to watch. This is the problem I'm going to have with this, and I'll bring they're going to want to watch that target. What's that doing to their psyche, their combat mindset? He's going to shoot me. I just saw a muzzle flash. Well, hell yes. So you have to ignore all that and go, this guy's going away. You know, I'm turning his lights off. And so, you know, turning birthdays off, whatever, you know, but get in there and you've got to see that front sight. And if you hit high thoracic or the head, you know the deal. Even if you don't get a good headshot, it scrambles them. Their eyes go, their vision.
They're out of the fight.
Yeah. Most people don't have the combat.
You know, our old mutual friend of ours, Super Dave Harrington.
Oh, yes.
And when S. Dave was one of the primary instructors down at Range 37 years ago, Dave had a great training point, teaching point is, we always talk about the ODA loop, you know, the ODA loop and stuff. And Dave's theory was, look, you know, observe, orient, part of it. Dave said, look, in the real world, it's vision, decision, action.
Yeah.
And you don't have to orient. Once you've made, the hardest part of that thing, that process is making a decision.
Yes.
Once you process, the action part's really pretty easy. Most decent shooters, well, let's say a guy who, you don't have to be a 1%er, you don't have to be a master class shooter. Most people that have any good basic fundamentals of combat marksmanship can meet the challenge.
Yes.
It's first, I tell people, we don't react in the real world to an auditory stimuli. It's always visual.
Yes.
Which is one of the weak links in the competition world. It's backwards and it's artificial. Most people, if you have to react from a visual start, it's slower than an auditory. Most people, they see it, then they got to, you know, it's got to be processed and a decision has to be made. Most people spend more time in the decision process than they do in any of the rest of it.
Yeah.
And some people are better than others. When you were in Delta, let's face it, you invested a lot of time learning to process and make a decision. And let's be honest, one of the major things, I remember the guys in the unit that one of the sergeant majors made a comment to me. He said, what we want as guys that come in here is we want guys that are real problem solvers. They are thinkers. They can think their way through a problem. And as you know, it was an NCO run organization.
Yeah.
You don't wait on orders from an officer. You guys made a decision. And the guys that could process and solve problems quickly were your best operators.
Yeah.
So in life, remember, vision, decision, action. Hey gang, I hope you enjoyed this follow-up to the discussion with Paul about some of what we consider hot topics today. Don't be afraid to push that subscribe button. And if you have questions or comments about some of the material that we discussed, don't be shy. You know, list them in that comment section and we'll do our best to address them sometime in the future. In the meantime, stay safe, watch your back, see you down the road.